Welcome to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina. My guest today is Miss Geraldine Newson. You'll remember her from our very first podcast because she interviewed me. And now it's Jerry's turn to sit in that seat and tell her journey, share her experience. And I'm going to tell you, my girl got some pearls of wisdom to give to you. We should have got tissue earlier. I need to do better about that. But here we go. Let's have this conversation right now.
Many people talk about the ups and downs of married life, but no one really prepares you for life after your spouse passes away. Welcome to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina, a safe place for widows, widowers, and their friends and family to talk about love and loss. Find comfort as you listen to honest conversations between Tina and invited guests who've experienced the loss of their forever partner. Share their stories of love, grief, and healing. You are not alone in this journey. Join today's episode and discover a wealth of resources and learn how to connect with others who are traveling the same path. This is Widowhood Real Talk with Tina.
Hello and welcome to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina. And my guest today is Miss Geraldine Newson.
Hello.
Now you remember Jerry, she did my initial interview. Now the eye is on Jerry. We're going to get to know a little bit about Jerry, and I get to interview her.
Okay, I'm not feeling intimidated.
Not at all. Not at all. So Jerry, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Tina, I was born and raised in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I'm the youngest of five.
Five? Okay.
Yes, I had two brothers and three sisters.
Okay.
And now there were three of us.
Mm.
And I moved here in 1987
Okay.
with my then fiance, and we later got married. And I've been here since, and I've been working. I have three wonderful adult children, four grandchildren,
Ooh.
and five great-grandchildren, which are, all of them are my hearts, every single one of them. And I have come to love living here and the relationships that I have built. And a lot of that started with our relationship together, because I believe this is the longest friendship that I've had since I've moved here.
Really?
Yes, and I never told you that.
I am not here with my tissue. I am not here for this. Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It was very hard to find friendships.
Why is that?
The mothers of my children's friends were a little bit standoffish.
Okay.
And the churches that I attended, the first one was predominantly white.
Okay.
And, I had, female, relationships with the women, but it was just a little tough to keep those to be lasting relationships.
Okay.
And it's like a come and go type thing
Okay.
for a season. But our season is still going because it's a lifetime.
So you said working. What type of jobs have you had over the years since being here in Virginia?
Well, when I first came here, I was working for an attorney.
In what capacity?
I was the transcriber.
Oh, okay.
And so I transcribed all of his recorded documents. And
Oh, wow.
yes, it was a lot of typing all the time. And I was there for 18 months. And then he merged with another company and he couldn't take the whole staff. And so then I started working with a commercial and residential real estate.
Oh, okay. Real estate.
That was one of the things I thought I really wanted to get into because I loved real estate management.
Okay.
And so I did learn, the tricks and trades and some of the things about it.
Okay.
However, the agents that worked there weren't really working. I think this was a hobby for them.
Oh, so it wasn't a real grind going on.
Right.
So to
keep it going. So after 3 years, I knew I had to start looking for another job.
There was no growth potential.
None at all. I was the office manager. You name it, I did it. And the owner of the company, she, had her own thing going on. So
even the owner had a side gig.
No, she had a side life.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm gonna leave that with the tea. We're just gonna leave that right there. I'm gonna drink my tea on there. Okay.
So I finally started looking for another job, and I saw a job that I recently had vacated when I left Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I worked for Duquesne University, and I was working in the admissions department.
Okay.
And at that time they had newspapers, Daily Press was out, and I was looking through the newspaper and I saw this job, and I looked at my husband and I said, "Hey, my job is in the paper." First thing he thought was I was getting fired from my current job. I said,
okay.
"Time out, brother. No, the job that I left in Pittsburgh is right here in this paper." And I applied for it. It was Christopher Newport College.
Mama.
And it was in the admissions department. And I was so excited.
Okay.
So of course, back then there was paper applications.
Yeah.
And it was very long. It was a legal size paper. It was a lot to do, but I couldn't wait to get it filled out and turned in. And when they called for the interview, and I went for the interview, and then they called and made me an offer, I was so excited. And I stayed in that capacity with Christopher Newport for 12 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I had kind of hit a ceiling in that office,
Okay.
but I couldn't find myself working in another department. So I applied for another job, and I applied at that time it was Thomas Nelson Community College, and it is now Virginia Peninsula Community College. And I stayed there for 18 and a half years.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've been in this type of field, almost 35 years, 36 years, because I did, my time in Pittsburgh was 6 years doing that.
Okay. So
I also worked at the University of Pittsburgh.
So you said you stayed there for 18 years. What happened after the 18 years?
I retired.
Say it again, girl.
I retired.
Nice.
Yes, I retired this year,
Okay.
January 1st, 2023. And it took a while to really get into the mode of being retired because I've been working since I was in high school.
Wow.
I kind of looked back on my Social Security thing and I said, "You mean since the age of 16?
We don't count the low-key babysitting and other stuff.
That's right.
Yeah, none of that.
Under
none
the
of
table,
that.
got to, clean an auntie's house
Right.
type thing, But I said from the age of 16, I had been working except for 4 years of my life.
Wow.
And I was ready to retire.
Are you fully retired, Jerry?
No. I must say, I am not fully retired.
Okay.
I'm working part-time with an event rental and planning business.
Okay.
But it's not like work.
Okay. So this is more of a passion, a
It
joy.
is. It really is, because I've done some of it before, but this is really taking me into the whole business of it.
Okay.
And I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's, part-time, 3 days a week, and whenever we have an event, weekends.
So what do you do in that process of the event?
Oh my gosh. So first of all is meeting with the clients.
Okay.
And finding out what they want, what's their desire, heading them in the right direction with colors and how the decor would look.
Okay.
And then getting all that stuff ready, setting it up for them, and then watching their eyes when they see what it looks like. And then, of course, you have to take everything down,
That's fun
pack
part.
it back up,
Yes.
and take it back. But even that's work, but it just fulfills me.
That's more people stuff I hear you doing.
Exactly.
You did Mary Kay or something?
I did Mary Kay for 14 years.
Right. You really enjoyed that. More the people
Yes.
in
But
engagement.
my job with the college and the universities, there was a lot of work that I had to do on the flip side. When I went to Thomas Nelson, I started recruiting.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't have a lot of time to do that. Plus, I was pursuing a degree.
Okay.
So there wasn't a lot of time for weekends to meet with my Mary Kay clients and to get new clients. It's a lot of work.
Okay.
And I enjoyed it so much. I did makeovers. I remember doing your makeover. I needed to make a portfolio.
When I graduated from college,
Yes.
and I had this black suit, and I believe it was a white blouse. I purchased it at JCPenney's because that was where you went to get stuff. And you helped me do my makeup for my first job interview.
That's right. I forgot I did that part. That's
and
what
you
it
helped
was
edit the
for.
resume too, just saying.
Yes. Oh, you're right.
Yes.
That's the other sides of stuff that I do. And so I've been helping people and doing things for people, working at my church in the ministry of the hospitality ministry.
Oh, I can see you. So you hospitality at church, hospitality and event planning. Okay.
Yeah.
People.
It's my passion.
It is.
I think that helping people was what God had designed when He created me.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've thanked Him for that, because I remember when I was a young Christian and, people were talking about their gifts. And know what gift I have. I don't know what gift I have. And my God just said, well, you just pray about it and find out what your gift is.
Okay.
And I just asked him to open up my eyes. And I started reading. And my gift was giving
Okay.
to other people and helping other people.
Okay. Gift for helps.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, it just really, really makes me feel good.
It is something about knowing what you're called to do and then being able to fulfill that on top of it.
Yes.
That is huge. So when did you and I meet? And do you recall how exactly it played out?
To this day, I think it was because I was such a social butterfly and I used to go to different offices.
Okay.
And I used to go to the registrar's office, the business office, financial aid office.
Mhm.
And I believe that's how we met.
Okay.
Because I know that you were a work study student there at that time. And I would just go and I just talk to the other, staff members.
Right.
And then I remember we were talking one day and you said something about your sister would be coming here to go to school. And I was like, oh, really? That's
yeah,
nice.
Denise did come here for a bit.
And so when she came, and then she was looking for a work study job. And I said, well, she can work study with us in admissions.
Okay.
And so she worked with me in admissions. And from that, not only did we have a relationship, you and I, but me, you, and Denise,
Okay.
your husband, Mark. And then I met the whole family at
The
graduation.
hood. Yes.
Let me say, it was so wonderful meeting your sisters and your parents. And of course, your mother's very quiet. And so, but I got to know the family.
Right.
And through those years. So what year did you graduate?
1993.
Okay, so that's how long.
From Christopher Newport, undergrad.
So that's when I met your family.
Okay.
And you knew my children, because my
Right.
children, my grandson,
Yes.
but yeah, so that's
a lot of time. And so what friends, you said that was the start of other friendships. What friendships evolved from that?
Well, from that, not only with your family, but there were two other young ladies that worked there at the college.
Okay.
They were going to the college and they were work study students. And that was Allison Poole, I think was her last name. Was it Allison's? What was her?
I thought Allison worked in the, oh no.
But she was in the business office.
Yes, she was. No, she worked in the business office. She wasn't a student then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she worked in, Allison worked.
And Vivian.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, they're cool. They're cool. I met them through you. And I was like, that was fine. But I remember meeting Chris, Wisman, and Barbara really stands out more.
Okay.
And the reason why is because one of my sister's sons had passed away suddenly.
Okay.
And it was in Chicago. And I remember calling you and talking to you about it. And we were getting ready to have the first bonfire.
Oh.
At the house in Gloucester.
Okay.
And I says, I don't think I'm going to come over.
Okay.
And you says, no, you're going to come over because you need to get away from the house.
Mm.
And I thought, okay, I'll do that. I really wasn't, pumped up about it or anything. But it was the best thing ever because I was surrounded with other people.
Okay.
And
not being alone.
Even though I was with my husband, he wasn't the caring, nurturing, supportive type person like that.
Okay.
He didn't know how to do that. And so it was very difficult to express to him how bad it hurt. He just knew that, I was upset.
So you had a need and not quite sure how to articulate to this person close to you, but knowing your needs still needed fulfillment.
Yes.
Okay.
And so when I got over to your house, and I know I was sitting there, I was quiet for a while. And then, I just was like, okay, you know what, Lord, there's nothing I can do at this point. I can't go to Chicago until I think it was 2 days later.
Okay.
So it was a lot of things, but that's where I met Barbara.
Okay.
And at that time she was married to Rick.
Mm-hmm.
And
we were in the Army together.
Yeah.
We had been in the military together.
And so it was just a joy just listening to you all talk and laugh. And throw stuff on the bonfire so to keep it going.
There was a lot of that, a lot of jumping through the fire, a lot of being in the fire, like hoping nobody got burned in the fire, but it was fun.
Exactly.
There was hot cider-ish going around.
Yes, and those bonfires grew and grew through the years.
They did.
And not only that, but the friendships grew.
Mm.
And Kim, I remember meeting Kim at one of the baby showers. I think it was yours.
Okay.
Yeah, because you had yours, Catherine, before.
I think you surprised me with Alexander. I don't know what happened with Catherine. I think there was one at work. There was one at the house. Yeah. I can't recall how that went out.
But yeah, so I met Kim. And so with the gang there was just now the crew, the OGs started getting together, and we are still in that friendship circle.
That is a long time.
Yeah.
And still getting good, just improving and getting better over the years. So you mentioned about your siblings. Mm-hmm. And would you like to share about that a little bit?
My oldest brother, we called him Lenny. His name was Leonard.
Okay.
Was a dancer. He lived in Philly and New York, back and forth.
Up and coming.
Yeah, and he danced with the Alvin Ailey dance group and different dance groups there. And he became HIV positive. Mm. And it wasn't long after he got pneumonia.
Okay.
He didn't go through the whole suffering of everything, but he got pneumonia. And I went up to Philly to see him when he was in the hospital when they first put him in. So my parents were there and my two sisters. Mm. My brother and his wife came up later. Okay. I think it was 2 days after I left. Okay. And I was going to go back at the end of the month, but my brother called and told me that he had passed. Mm. And it was June 2nd. Okay. And it was the year that my son was graduating from high school. Wow. And so we went home for the funeral and had the funeral on Monday. And my son's graduation was Saturday.
That's a lot of emotions to manage in a short period of time.
It was. And of course, the family, I didn't expect anyone to come. But my dearest, longest friend that I've had since third grade is my son's godmother. She came with her husband and my godson
to the graduation.
To the graduation.
Wow! So they were coming from Pittsburgh. Okay, mm-hmm. To Virginia. Okay,
to be there.
Okay.
And I remember crying, and I knew why I was crying. I was happy he was graduating, but I was just so sad that my brother wasn't there. Okay. But there was one thing that stood out. He had come down that spring. Okay. And he hadn't visited us before in Virginia.
Your brother.
Right.
Okay.
And he came down and he spent time with the kids because he just loved those. He just loves his nieces and nephews. Okay. And my daughters, by the way, are the only nieces and the only granddaughters that my parents had. Okay. So.
Just saying.
Out of 8 boys, and then there came along 2 girls at the very end. So out of 10 grandkids, my 2 girls.
Okay, little queens and princesses over there. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Even to this day.
I bet.
Yes, their cousins treat them like
China dolls.
Yes. Okay. I'm like, oh my gosh, it had never changed. I'm so happy. But he spent the time with the kids that I even told him, I says, you guys know me. I don't normally do this, but you can stay home from school and spend that time with your uncle.
Wow.
And they did.
The foreshadowing of that and just that, you don't know how things are playing out, but that is exactly a moment that was intentional on his behalf, but not really realizing maybe how big it was.
Right.
We have to seize those moments.
Yes. And then my sister right above me, because I'm the youngest of 5, recently passed away. As a young girl, she grew to look like a woman, but she still was a little girl. Okay. So at the age of 9, she, became, she had her period. Okay. She had, her breasts were developing. Mm-hmm. So she looked like a woman a teenager.
Her body was
Her body.
developing quicker than what her mind was.
Right. And but there were other things that we didn't know then. But later on, we found that she was suffering with anxiety and mental illness. And so December 10th of 2022, my sister could not deal with life anymore. She had already tried taking her life several times. She would cut herself. And my brother-in-law would, contact my parents, and they would go up to Chicago where she lived and help her get through. And, through the years, and she was on medication after medication after medication. But I believe that this last time, she said that she wasn't going to take medicine anymore. She stopped taking it for a few years. We could see the change in her. And, but she decided that she was through, and she killed herself. She shot herself. It was the most difficult thing. I thought before I had dealt with some difficult times and death. But my sister, we were roommates until she got married. From the time I was born until I think she got married when I was 14.
So y'all
She
spent
was 16.
all those crazy girl nights staying up talking and everything else and
and
the
fussing,
hee-hee-ka-ka,
and arguing,
everything
and
else.
throwing pillows and
Right.
shoes and talking on the telephone when she moved away. We talked every day when she moved to Chicago. I remember crying.
That's like when you got the
hard.
phone bill, like from talking long
Yes,
distance, and the long cord walking around the room and everything. Yes.
And but we would talk every single day when she lived there. So when she moved to Chicago, it was like, okay, we're gonna talk every day too.
Right.
So the phone bills started coming in. You're like, okay, we cut this down to maybe twice a week.
Write a letter.
And even when I moved here to Virginia, I took my children to her for the summer. So that I could get settled here. Because we had to find a house to live in. And she kept the children, and they did all types of things. They even went away, and a lot of things they did at the church because her husband's a minister. And I was devastated to the point where I just felt like my whole body was numb. My brain was numb. I couldn't think.
Right.
And it was more difficult with my brother mourning his loss.
Really?
Because there was no one here once I got back. Just me and my children and my husband. I didn't have any friends to speak about. But when my dad passed and my mom passed, different years later, many years later, I was thankful because I'd seen them suffering. And I knew that they would be with the Lord. But when, and I'll share this because you came once again. I had a dog named Oreo.
Oh, yeah.
My mom had passed in March.
Yeah.
You came the same day. You came down. You came over to the house that evening. It was like a tag team. I had a friend who had picked me up and brought me home from work. And you and Yolanda came and you brought food. And then you tapped out, and my daughter Melinda ended up being there next. And I was like, who are these people just coming in and out? But my little dog, I used to just hold him and get so much comfort from him just in times that I would be lonely, or I just love dogs and animals, mainly dogs.
But it's that unconditional love you can get from an animal.
Yes, exactly.
They can hear about the day and not judging. Just keep going on.
He just was happy that you came home again.
Exactly.
Can we go out? And then that was March. In June of the same year, just a few months later, I was sitting on the porch talking with that same male friend that was with me that day. We were talking, and my dog, he's a playful little thing. And he saw this gentleman running down the street. The man was jogging. And he started barking, and I told him, Oreo, stop.
Right.
I said, be quiet. I said, Oreo. Then he started like going towards the sidewalk. And I said, no, Oreo. And before I could get his name out the third time, he had already run out in the street and got hit by a car.
And that was not his normal behavior, was it?
No,
I don't
because
think.
he'd be on that porch and he would see people go by and he would be fine. But he was so playful when he saw that man. Because he
Jogging.
would see little kids and he would get excited.
Okay.
We'd be walking in the morning, 6:30 in the morning when the kids are out there waiting for the bus.
Right.
They got to know Oreo. Here comes Oreo. And when I called and told you, you came over the next morning, and first thing I wanted to do, I said, I want to sit on my porch because I need to do it now.
Well, you have some strength, some backup. Yeah.
And we sat there, and I drank a cup of coffee, and we talked. And it's when you're those times that you lose someone is when you really need someone. And people don't understand that. Sometimes people want to be left alone.
Sometimes.
But there are times when you need to be insistent that they not be alone.
Okay.
And you did that with my nephew. You did that with my mom, my dog, and my sister.
I gave you some space more with your sister.
With my sister, you gave me space because you were out of town.
That happened, but I also felt like this impacted you differently.
Yeah.
And it required, even though we're friends and I know you, I was like, she really needs time with her family just to take this in. Your other sister came to visit. The kids were there.
Yeah.
It hit your family harder.
Yeah.
And it was
anything.
and then you had getting ready to retire, so many different things. The holidays were coming and stuff like that. And just to try to grasp through every piece of that, I didn't seem like a place, like when everybody was done with that, I knew it was like, okay, now this is where I insert myself because people have kind of gone back to living their lives. This is where the friends step in and be there because the friends are there longer than the family members unless they live next door.
Yes.
And most of the time that is the case. So how have you seen life differently in these losses in your lifetime, family members?
One thing that I can say is that all of my family members that passed were the same way. They loved life. They loved having fun, and they enjoyed it as much as possible and wanted each one of us to enjoy life. And it was kind of hard this time with my sister to get in that
reality of that piece.
Yes, of being able to enjoy life when her life was taken the way it was taken. However, I feel that the time by myself that I spent, thank you for giving me grace and giving me that time and not talking to other people and just dealing with my feelings. And when I was ready to talk, I knew who I wanted to talk to. And I talked to you and I talked to my girlfriend in Pittsburgh, Tanya. And I didn't talk to my siblings about my feelings until I was ready.
Any journaling? Any other ways of releasing?
I started journaling when you and I talked.
And
because I started having these dreams about my sister. And she was there and we were talking and I wanted to go, we were going to do something. And then she said, well, no, you can't go. And I kept saying, no, I'm going to go with you. And she wouldn't let me. And then I would turn my head and she would be gone.
Wow.
And she told me I couldn't go with her.
How did that leave you?
Very sad because I wanted her to be with me because that's how we were. That's how we grew up. I was the tag along. You know, the baby sister, always wanted to
Gotta bring her with you.
Yes, like, no, you gotta go with us. Okay. We even dated in the same circle one time.
Oh, really?
Yes, we dated brothers. And my other sister, Linda, dated their friend. And so the three of us, we would be hanging out with these dates. And that was fun. So we did. And then my two sisters, they actually dated cousins. Because my brother-in-law's cousin was my other sister's boyfriend. So that's how we
close
grew
you
up.
Were.
And we just did so many things together. We used to, when our mother had her aneurysm and had brain surgery, and I told them, I'm not going to come until mom's out of the hospital.
Okay.
You guys can take care of everything. I'm chill. Just let me know what's going on. If there's anything I need to rush there for, just let me know. I'm on standby. And they said, no, you're fine. You're fine. So when I did get there after she got out the hospital, you talking about tag team. They said, okay, you have night duty with mom. I said, oh, okay, great. So I go in there to sleep with her. They didn't tell me that she was a night walker.
Oh, you had guard duty.
I said, I had brought her something that the kids had sent her because she loved Tweety Bird.
Okay.
And so there was a little cage with Tweety Bird in it, and it was motion sensor.
Oh.
And so when you would walk past, it would say, I thought I put it down.
Oh, that thing was going off then.
No, it didn't go off when she went because she was just so slow. But every time I jump up, it go, I thought I put it down.
It's in it for you and not for your mom.
Exactly.
Oh, too late. Tweety Bird was too late.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly. And so from then, we started this thing of having tea together. And
you have so many teacups. I didn't know the origin of that.
And so we would call each other on the phone and we would have tea while we were talking on the phone. So Linda was in Pittsburgh, Leslie was in Chicago, and I was in Virginia. And we would talk on a three-way.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
So that's how you came with all the different teacups and everything?
Well, I started before that because I love tea and we used to sit and drink tea and coffee together. But then when I saw, I remember the origin of it was looking at one of my great aunts.
Okay.
She had a curio cabinet with all these little demi-tasse cups and saucers. And I remember how much I loved them.
Okay.
But I didn't start collecting them until I moved here to Virginia.
And you have quite the collection.
I do. And people who know me continue buying them for me. And I'm like, I have no more space.
In fact, you were talking about how to redesign this and how you need to make the look different because some you have them and they're tucked away and you want to showcase them. So now that you're retired,
I did it.
Yes.
I did it. I have them out and you should see me sometimes. I will sit in the dining room and just look at them and just say, they're so pretty. Oh, look at that one. Look at the color of this one. And then it starts to make me think about, my sisters brought me this teapot. My other sister brought me this.
The story behind it.
Yeah. So they would buy me the teapots and she brought me a little tea set and one of my favorite colors was lavender. And so she remembered that and it has lavender flowers on it. So there's a lot of great memories to continue on with my life. It just took a while to remember that it's okay to be happy.
So those are some very close steps in your family. When my situation happened with Mark, how did you find out about that?
I remember I was just coming home from a college event, and it was a Saturday. And I was in my driveway, and I remember sitting back saying, whew.
I'm done with that for the weekend.
Good to be home now.
Mm-hmm.
I said, hello. And you said, don't say anything, just listen to me. And I said, okay. And then you told me what had happened with Mark, and that you were at the hospital and you didn't have any more other updates than that right now, is that you're waiting for the doctors to, let you know. She said, and you said, I can't talk to anyone else right now, but would you contact the ladies?
The OGs.
The OGs. And I said, sure. So I contacted them. And I had to text them and I told them, and I says, I hate doing this through a text, but this is the fastest way to reach everyone. And so they started calling me to ask me questions. And I remember talking with Allison.
Okay.
And when she called me and she says, well, what are you doing? And I says, I'm packing up. I says, I'm on my way there. I'm getting ready to go. I says, I don't want her to be there without me. I says, I got to go. And they said, okay. And that was all. And as I was driving and I was praying, oh God, please let him still be alive. Please let him still be alive. And Marletha called me.
Oh, okay.
And she is the one that told me that when Mark had passed and I was on the road. And I mean, It was only by the grace of God and his protection that I didn't have a wreck, because I was crying and driving and crying and driving, and I was still on the Eastern Shore, so I hadn't gotten
You
over.
ain't got nowhere too far.
Right. And I was like, oh my God, I got to get there. I got to get there. And that's all I kept saying. I got to get there. And when I got there, all I could see was just you hurting. You weren't crying at that point. You were just trying to make sure I got my car in, because I was there on base somewhere, and you wanted to make sure I got there, and then you could get me into the room. And it's in the room where...
We were still in the room where Mark passed.
No, you had already moved you.
And I was really impressed with them. We stayed at Delaware Water Gap on the base housing, being retired military. And when they found out, they moved all of our contents into a different room. So when I came back, I was like, well, I'm going to my room. And he's like, no, you are not. You are going to this room. And unfortunately, there were a few things that they didn't get. And I had to go back into the room to get those. And Catherine went back with me. And that was so hard. That was so hard. I don't recall who went with us, but I remember having to go back to the room to pick up some things.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Was Kim there by that time? Had her?
I have no concept of time.
Okay.
Like, did you, Lisa, or Kim, or Mark's brother, Jeff? I have no concept as far as... Actually, I'm wrong. I think Jeff was there immediately because he was there in the hospital with us.
Okay.
And his wife, Jen. But as far as when you ladies came, I have no concept of the timeline.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
So you said I was hurting. What did that look like?
If you've ever seen anyone in pain and not knowing what to do, that's what it looked like.
Okay.
You just stood there, and when we closed the door, I put my bags down, and I just came close to you, and you just fell on me, and you cried. We just got on, we were on the floor, and I was just holding you while you were crying.
Wow. I have no recall of that. The brain will do everything to save you from that level of misery.
Yes.
Did you sleep in the bed with me then?
I slept in the bed.
I thought I
with
remembered
you.
that. Okay.
And there wasn't much sleeping.
Okay.
Because I wanted to be alert and be ready when you needed me. And because you had to make some calls before we even went to sleep. You had to make some calls. You went into the mode that you do. You know, okay, this has to be done. That has to be done. I have to call here. And you said, here's Mark's Social Security number. If they call back, they need his Social Security number. And I said, okay. And I told you, just lay down and relax as much as you could.
I think at some point, like, you just had my phone for days. It was like, I cannot do that.
Yeah.
I mean, people were just pouring in love. I was grateful when I was able to read the text and to see it. But at that moment, every text was a reality that he was dead. Every message was, this has really happened. Like, wow.
Yes. And it's funny you should say that, because it was hard to sink in for me.
Okay.
I could not believe. Mark was like my brother. Because you're like look, I always say my daughter's sister, you know, because I'm not old enough to be your mother, but I'm older than you.
Right.
But I could be your older sister.
There we go.
And Mark and I had such a great relationship. And it just was not real to me. It really was not real. And
when did it start getting real?
When we went to his apartment here in Virginia.
So what was that? Explain what that was about.
Well, he was working here in Virginia, and you were still in Pennsylvania. And so Allison, Vivian, and myself, we had gotten the key from you before we left Pennsylvania after the funeral, so that we could come and clean up the apartment and pack everything up.
Which was a huge gift. Because in my mind, I thought I was going to drive down and I was going to do all that or catch a flight. When you got ladies offered to do that, I was like, never dawned on me.
Yes.
at all.
And we were in there and just walking in, and we all just kind of stood there for a minute.
Mm.
And then we said, okay, so how do we want to start this? And then, okay, so they needed to go pick up some things at the store. Okay, we need some bags, we need this, we need that. Because not only were we packing up, but we were cleaning and getting it
Yeah.
ready, and so we did all of that. And then it was like, now it is true. Because we're touching his clothes. We're putting them away. We were deciding who can keep this, who can keep that in storage until
I made it here.
Tina
Or what I was
made
going
it.
to decide, make a decision.
Made her decision to come here or to move somewhere else. So we took care of all of that and packed each other's, cars and everything. And then I turned in the keys.
Mm.
And that made it really real.
That was a weight to take off of me, but still a weight to carry.
But the only thing that I know that we were thinking of was you.
Mm.
And because we loved you so much and we knew that that would be a hard thing to do.
I am so grateful. I saw myself trying to get in the car and drive from Pennsylvania to Virginia, knowing I would go to his apartment that he was in the last time by himself. And I was like, that's not going to be safe at all. So then I was going to get a plane ticket. And because I was like, this is something that I should do. But when you ladies said you would do that, I remember the calls back and forth, like who to donate the bed to. I think somebody was working at a college and there were some students graduating and needed their own place.
Yes.
Yep. And took quite a bit of the furniture. And
yes, because I went over the next day and met her.
yes.
And that's the day that I turned the keys in. I went over the next day and they came over and they picked up the furniture.
And what surprised me out of that, I want to say it was a year later after Mark had died. And I was at the point that I wanted other people to start telling me their version of him dying, where they were, how it impacted them, because I know that I've missed so much. And you shared with me something about his clothing.
Mark had 2 denim shirts, had his name in them, so I know he wore them to work. And there were some things, and you said, well, you can donate. There's just some things that I want, some things I don't want. I says, okay. And, had pillows and all different types of things. And so these 2 denim shirts I kept. And every now and then I would just reach in my closet and I just pull them to me and I would smell them. And it was like, that's what I needed. I just felt that need to have that closeness with him at that time.
And when you shared that with me, because I think over the years, people are so concerned about the person that's grieving, they don't want to share their version of that. But when I gave you permission to share your version, it let me know I was not grieving him to that gravity by myself, that his death was that impactful. Now, there may be some situations where a loved one may die and it may not be as impactful, may not have friends, may not have a support group. That's why journaling or finding a support group and other different things, because the weight is so heavy and it's important to get somebody to help you along in that process. You may have to seek out to have your needs met, but it's important to recognize that your needs do need meeting.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely. I still have the shirts.
Mm.
And I remember one day I was like, oh, I'm so chilly. And I just normally would grab one of my hoodies and put it on. But that day I wanted to put on his shirt. And I put it on and I just walked around and I felt more comfortable
Wow.
and relaxed. And I'm like, I'll keep them forever.
Right.
It's just something that I know that I will do.
Mm-hmm.
And I miss our shopping trips that he and I used to take.
The man liked to shop like he was a chick. I'm like, I am not interested in this. I'm sitting on the bench with the dudes, and Mark is shopping. I'm like, I'm here for the free food. I am not here for the shopping. But his mom taught him well. I was not here for that at all.
I remember him and my daughters and Catherine and I, we went to the pottery in Williamsburg. We had a ball.
An endless opportunity of never leaving someplace without one item in your hand. You bought something before you left there.
Exactly. And of course you ate while you were there.
Yes.
So, but
ice cream and then something else.
Yeah.
Yes. Is that even open still?
Yeah, it is.
Really?
It's changed. They've done some remodeling, so
Butter
it looks a lot
pecan was
different.
my favorite thing.
Oh my. Woo. Still mine.
Okay.
It's still mine. But I remember him telling me about, him hunting and the deer and the turkey and all of the different things. And I was like, I used to eat deer meat, but I can't eat it no more because for some reason, I don't know. I just know it's Bambi. And he would laugh at me and he'd say, you just have to eat it. It hasn't been fixed right then if you don't eat it.
So, disclaimer, we had people to the house and provided them with a meal that they assumed was beef. And they would say in the conversation, I would never eat deer meat. And they're just going off. And Catherine, Mark, and Alexander and I are kind of like watching low-key laughing. And after they said it enough, we'd be like, well, that is deer that you're eating right there. And they were like, you want another helping? Because deer meat is very healthy. The venison is. And when you prepare it right, it doesn't taste gamey.
And that's what he told me. And I said, okay, I'll try it sometime.
It was an educational process for me. I think that was definitely something being in a racial marriage that I was outside my comfort zone in different places. I know there are African-American people that hunt, but in my hood, there were not anybody hunting in Chicago that wasn't trying to save their life. So that wasn't the thing. So that was pretty neat to see. So then I moved here to Virginia. How has that been? The reality of that?
Well, first, the move. Okay. So your sister helps you find a place where you're going to live. Okay, here, look at this, look at that, look at this. Finds the place. And then the OGs go into action again. And we went over to the house and we started unpacking and setting up rooms.
Yes.
I remember Chris and I doing the kitchen. Oh, we had so much fun.
Really?
Yes. And I think that Vivian and Allison did the bathroom and Kim did the bedroom.
Okay.
And so we were up and down, and so we were just having fun and unpacking because the first thing we said was, first, you need to have a place to sleep when you get in.
Yes.
You need to go take a bath, do whatever you're going to do. Third, your eating spot.
Right.
So that's what we concentrated on. And the only thing that we could think was we want her to come in and not have to do any of that right away.
I know, because I stayed at Barbara's on the way down. Mm-hmm. And you guys was like, what do you need? And I was thinking, it's going to take forever, like, to unpack boxes, to find a bed and do all the other stuff. And I was like, okay, they said anything. I was like, if I could have those two things. And I remember calling you guys like, where is this? I don't know where this is. I was like, I know I live here, but where are my clothes? Where's the spoon? Where is this? And stuff like that.
Yes. Yes, but I knew my way around your kitchen better than you.
Yes. Yes. Wow.
And that was the happy part. Because now you were coming home to us.
Yes.
And we were like, oh no, she's coming home to us. Okay, now we're all going to be together again.
Right.
And it was wonderful. It was wonderful. Exciting. It was so exciting.
Yes.
And then when you moved down and you were here, in fact, when Yolanda moved into her place, I went over and helped her.
Okay.
Yolanda's her sister. I don't know if you've met her yet.
You have.
Okay. And so I went over and helped her do some unpacking at her new place. So it was a lot of fun, being this close like sisters.
Friendships have a way of evolving. We never know in the beginning where it's going to take us, but it's definitely worth it. So all this in life, all you've experienced, any recommendations for someone that's grieving right now?
Absolutely. My first thing is let it happen. People tend to hold in their grief. Sometimes because they don't want people to see them
Mhm.
grieving.
How ugly it can be.
Yes. Other times it's because they're not sure they should be still grieving.
Oh, okay.
There's no time limit on grief. There absolutely is no time limit. Don't push yourself to do things. I remember when Mark passed and we were talking about sending out thank yous cards to everyone. And I says, stop. If you don't do this for the next 3 months, it is okay.
Those duties you feel like you have right afterwards.
Right.
Thank you for coming to my dead husband's funeral. I did not want to do those.
Exactly. And so even when it was time to do it, you didn't do it. Yolanda and I,
For my friends, I did not sign all those.
we did the labels, we signed the cards.
It was
because you could not, you weren't there yet.
Mm-mm.
You weren't there yet. And don't push yourself. I'm not there yet. I haven't done it yet for my sister.
Okay.
I've purchased the cards weeks ago. I still have not. I knew that I wasn't ready, and I says, when I'm ready, I'll do it. Now, this was November she passed, and this is now February. I'm not ready. Don't push yourself. The other thing I would recommend is find that one person or two people that you can really confide in and say how you feel, even if it's not a family member.
Okay.
Like I said, I've just shared with my brother and my sister how I'd been feeling.
Just
I
recently.
had a terrible Christmas and my birthday was worse.
Yeah.
Um,
Your birthday's in January, so
Yeah.
it just all came together.
yes, and then retiring all at the same time. You know, we had Christmas, we had New Year's, we had my birthday, retirement all at once. And it was too much for me because I didn't feel that I could still be happy and celebrate when my sister was dead.
Like you didn't have the right to be happy?
No right at all. I said, I have no right. But those are the feelings that I shared with you. And I shared with my sister Tanya, as I said, in Pittsburgh. And I told her, and they says, no, both of you felt the same way. You know, your sister wouldn't want you to feel this way.
Okay.
And it's okay to be happy. And it's okay to continue grieving.
So you can be happy and still be grieving.
Mm-hmm.
That is true.
Because in between all of that, I had a new great-granddaughter
Okay.
that was born, and it was the first grandchild for my daughter and son-in-law.
Okay.
And so there was excitement and joy, all of that. And of course, what happens? I wanted to share it with my sister.
Okay. Just instinctively, just to do that.
Exactly. Because my other sister, Linda, she's a little different.
Everybody ain't the same.
And so she doesn't have the same type of excitement and joy in saying, and she would just be like, oh, that's nice. Exactly what she said when I called her. She said, oh, okay, good. You know, things like that. But my other sister, she would show the excitement that I feel. And she would be, oh, I can't wait to see pictures, things like that. But let yourself grieve. Let yourself have joy and happiness. But most of all, don't shut yourself away.
You mentioned something about let it out. What are some ways of letting it out you found?
Whew. Some people think you shouldn't be crying after a funeral. I want to let you know that.
Okay.
I could be in a store and hear a song. I could smell a scent.
Okay.
And it brings back memories. Literally today.
Okay.
I was in the store and I would put my hand under the soap dispenser and I got the soap and I smelled Jergens. And I literally was transported to my childhood home in Pittsburgh. And I just started smiling because there was so much joy there. And I was just remembering my sisters and I, you know, using my mom's Jergens lotion and everything.
Off, everything
That's
is all
right.
good.
Gotta do it. Even light brights get ashy. I just want you to know. I tell people that they don't believe it, but yes, we get ashy.
I think I covered everything before being out. Oh, I may have a spot right there. Don't look at that. Okay, we're just gonna keep going.
But feel those feelings.
Okay.
I learned, and I did journaling with my sister. She used to tell me to, write journal because my sister was my spiritual advisor also. And so she taught me how to do a real intense Bible study. She taught me things to write down about, what God had opened up to me in the Word. I remember journaling when I had a relationship that failed and how
Another grief.
Yes. And it was hard because I was like, I am perfect girlfriend. Why would you want to get rid of me?
Just didn't work.
It didn't work. It wasn't God's plan. In journaling is how I found that out. And then you brought it back to me again. And I was like, oh, right. I need to write this down. I need to write down how I'm feeling. But I didn't shut myself away long. There are days, and there are still days, that I want to be in my room. And I don't want anyone to talk to me that day. And it's not because I don't want to hear anything good about them. I want to be in my feelings. And I want to be able to cry if I feel like crying. I want to be able to sit there. And I talk to my sister. I tell her different things. And I tell her how much I miss her. And that you didn't have to do that. But I'm so glad you're no longer in pain. You kind of have to see from another side when a person has mental issues. That they cannot help it. This is not under their control. And as a young kid, there were things that probably our parents, back then, they didn't know that children had mental issues like that. And my sister did suffer from depression all of her life, more so in her teenage years than in her younger years. But in her younger years, she did have it too. But I would recommend people to reach out, to find someone to talk to. I've never gone to a support group or went to a therapist, but I find talking to other people has been my therapy. That may not work for everyone. So they need to find what works for them. But don't sit there and do nothing. I remember when my dad passed from lung cancer. And I remember the hardest thing was when I came back home a week later. I said I was a dog lover. I had a dog at that time named Trey. He had gotten sick in, I want to say March, because I think that's when I went to see my dad. March. And I spent 2 weeks in Pittsburgh visiting my dad and took pictures and things like that. And it was March or April, something like that. And so my dad passed in June also, like my brother. And on the 7th was his date. So we had the funeral. Believe it or not, the wake was on Father's Day.
Child. That's okay. That's oof.
And the funeral was the next day, which was Monday. So I went back home a few days. I stayed there a few days, and then I went back home. And my dog had been sick before I left. He started getting sick when I went to visit my dad the first time. My dad only saw that dog twice. My dog was so sick, and I was like, what is wrong? I don't know what's wrong. And the vet, told me what was going on. And he says, it's going to cost you, like $500 every few weeks if you give him the shots, but we don't know how long it would last.
So you tell me you lost your dog and your dad within a short period.
At the very week after the funeral, the following Monday, I was putting my dog down. So June became a month for me, my brother, my father, my dog. I'm like, that I said I didn't want to, I said, I can't wait till June is over. And my grandson, it was one of the twins, I believe. Yeah, it was one of the twins said to me, no, you should be happy. That's when Omari was born, and that's when Michaela was born. Omari is my youngest grandson, and Michaela was my first great-grandchild.
They flipped that.
And they flipped it around for me.
Nice.
So find the joy in this time of grief. And that was my joy when he said that. And I had never thought about it that way. So now when June comes around, I'm not like that.
But it took opening up to share that, to give somebody else the pour
Exactly.
into you.
Because I remember saying to my grandson, I'll be glad when June is over.
Wow.
And I told him why. And, and he's young. I mean, it's not like
he had all this wisdom from somewhere.
So where did he get all that from?
Okay.
And then I start patting myself on the back because I figure it came from me.
Oh my gosh. On that note, we are going to wrap up this conversation. The words of wisdom, the pearls of knowledge that Jerry has shared with us has been awesome. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share.
You're welcome. And thank you for being here with us. Well, we have wrapped up another conversation with one of my friends, and Jerry did not hold back. She shared about her life experience, her loss personally, things that she's gone through, and then was able to really share about how my husband's death impacted her. It's amazing you can know somebody for so long and still in any conversation you can go, I didn't know that. That's a thing. There are just so many things we can find out about each other. And so with that, I say, I am sorry for the person that you have lost. I am sorry for the grief that you are enduring. But as you're sticking with us through these conversations, you are now officially part of our hood, and you are not alone. We are doing this together. Thanks for being here. I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you for spending another episode with Widowhood Real Talk. If you found the contents of today helpful, share the episode to anyone you know who may need it. Subscribe to the show and tune into Widowhood Real Talk each week. Then visit widowhood-realtalkwithtina.org to join the community and access additional resources. Remember, you are not alone in this journey.